Welcome back to the Arbitress YouTube channel. Today we'll be learning how to make a Canadian smoking sleeve design. Okay, we've done something similar on the channel, but I actually had a request for this, so I'm just going to be going through it again. I'll be illustrating with this paper so that we can see it well before I transfer it to my fabric. Basically, I'll be using half yard of fabric for each sleeve, and I'll be working with a doll face fabric. So on the wrong side of the fabric, you need to choose the interval you want between each of your smoking. So just for the purpose of this illustration, I'll be taking 2 inches in each, and then I'll be marking it. So an inch of 2, after 2 is 4, after 4 is 6, and after 6 is 8. So I repeat this again on this side, and once I have it like this, I'll take my ruler and make it into a straight line. So the same thing I have done horizontally, I'm going to be marking the 2 inches vertically also on my fabric. Okay, so now I take my tape rule again, and then I measure 2 inches interval. It can be 3, it can be 1, depending on how close you want the smoking to be. So it doesn't have to be 2 inches, like I said. So I'm going to mark this now and then make it into a straight line, and then we'll see what we have. Okay, so we have a box of 2 inches each. After that, I'm going to leave the first box, and then I'll start marking my second box diagonally like this. Okay, and then go over to the next box and mark. Then after that, I'll leave the next box and go over to the next box also, and then I'll start marking diagonally. But the first box that I marked, I will not mark anything here. I'll move to the next one. Okay, and then I'll leave the next one and then move to the next one and mark my box diagonally. I hope you understand what I'm trying to do. So once you have your box of 2 inches by 2 inches in this case, you leave your next box. You will understand where we're leaving it later, and then you start your marking diagonally from your first box like this. Once you fill up the first row, you leave the second row, and then you start marking on this third row. But when you're marking on the third row, take note of the markings that you do here. You won't touch this place. You move to the next one. Assuming the paper is long enough, you would have seen what I've done, but this is just for illustration. So I'll be bringing my fabric now so that we can see it better. So this is my fabric now, and in the case of my fabric, I did a measurement of 3 inches by 3 inches. So my box is 3 inches long and 3 inches wide. As you can see, it's exactly 3 inches. So I have like I said, I'm using half yard of fabric, so this is a half yard fabric for each of the sleeve, and then I've done my markings diagonally. So like I said, I left the first box here, I didn't even mark it at all. Then I moved to the second one, then I did my markings. I left the third one, and then I did my marking on the third one. On the fourth one, if you notice the marking on the fourth one, where I have my marking here, where I have my marking on the first one, I did not mark on the second one, and like that's how I continued. And then I omitted the fifth one, and on the sixth one also I took note of where I did my last marking, omitted it, and then I continued to fill it up like that. So now I fill this on my fabric. Now the next thing is to start picking the fabric and sew. So I'm going to start from the first box. To pick your fabric, you pick from one angle. You're only going to be working with the boxes that have lines. Now you don't have anything to do with the boxes without line. So on the first marking here, I'm going to pick it from one diagonal end to the other, and then using my needle and thread. You can also do this on your machine. What you just need to do is to take one diagonal point together like this, and then run a back stitch to hold them in place. But a needle and thread will do just fine also, so I'll be using needle and thread for this. So once you hold it, if you don't want to hold them together, you can just pick the first one like this. I've tied my thread at the end so it will not loose. Once you pick the second one, you take it to the next one and then you drag them together. It will automatically come together, and then you secure it by tying a knot here. And mind you, all this has to be done on the wrong side of the fabric. So I'm tying a knot here, and once it is secured, I take my scissors and then cut it off. So like I said, I'm going to leave the next box that doesn't have anything. I'll retie my thread and then move over to the next box with diagonal line. So you will do everything for all the boxes that you have filled. Okay, once they're together, you knot the tie maybe 2 times just to secure it. Once it's secured, it's done. So now I'll go off camera and then fill up all this and then bring it back to show us. But this is what it is looking like. It's already gathering or smoking it for us on the right side. So I'll go over now and do everything and bring it back to show us. Okay, so all the highlighted lines, the diagonal lines, have been tacked now, as you can see, and this is the wrong side of the fabric. So when you turn it to the right side, you have this type of ruffles. So like I said, your ruffles depend on the closeness of the ruffles, depend on the intervals that you use. Remember, in this case I used 3 inches. If you want it closer than this, you can use maybe 2 inches, 1.5, or even 1 inch, but 3 inches is just fine for me. And this sleeve, this can actually act as, you can use it as a sleeve, an off shoulder sleeve, or a regular sleeve, or whatever it is that you want to use it for. But in this tutorial, I'll be using it as an off shoulder sleeve. So to use it as an off shoulder sleeve, you can either take it together like this and shape out your armhole from it, but I don't want all these rough edges to be showing, so I have my basic off shoulder sleeve here drafted already. So I'll just be sewing it to fit into my off shoulder sleeve that I already have. Okay, so now the next thing I'm going to do now is to take one end of my smocking. Okay, I just choose anyone, whether up or down, and then I'll take it to the sewing machine now, and then I'll run a stitch just to gather everything so that it can fit into this small space. So I'll either be gathering it or pleat it like this, so that by the time I'm done, I'll have something like this. I'll gather everything so that I can fit in to this space, then bring it back to show us the next thing to do. Okay, so I've gathered it, as you can see, on the hemline, and then this is what it looks like on the outside. So you can actually top stitch on it so that it can relax well, because I don't really advise ironing so that it won't lose its bouncy effect. So now the next thing is for us to arrange what the top is going to look like. But remember, this is an off shoulder sleeve which has like a small armhole cuff here. So now to replicate this armhole cuff on my smoky, I'm going to put it together like this on the sides. Okay, remember, this is the length and this is the breadth, which is the long part. So once I put it together like this, I'll just take one part of my armhole and then use it to trace out an armhole cuff. So I've put it together like this, and then I'm going to take one part of my armhole and then I'll trace out an armhole cuff before I do the gathering on the upper part, just like I did for the lower part. So now I have this, and then I'm tracing out my armhole. So once I trace out the armhole, it becomes easy for me. So I'm going to be gathering whatever it is that I have left. You can actually match your armhole together before you start gathering it and sew it so that it becomes easier for you. So now the excess that I have, I'll be gathering it into this small space on top like this, and then I'll bring it back to show us what it's looking like. Okay, so I've gathered the excess on the upper part also, as you can see, and now I can match my armhole together, the armhole that I cut off. Okay, you can see that it matches on both sides. So now once our armhole matches, we will definitely have excess on this underarm area also. So to do this, let me just turn it so that we'll understand what I'm saying. Remember, this is the basic sleeve, this is the hemline of the sleeve, this is the upper part of the sleeve, and these are the side seam. Okay, so this side also will be shorter than what we have on the smoky. Remember, we used a total of half yard fabric for this, so it will be longer. The excess that I have here also on the side of the sleeve, I'm going to pleat it together so that they can all be one and it can easily form our smoky, just like this. So I'll do that for both sides and then bring it back to show us. So I've sewn it together on the sides also. I can see I've gathered it to fit in on both sides. I have something this small and very bouncy. So like I said, if you want your ruffles more close together, if you want them closer together than this, you don't need to use 3 inches. You can just use 2 inches like I did here, or you use 1 inch, so that it will be really close together. But I just like it the way it is, like this, and I think I'm okay with what I have. So to further explain this, let me just turn it to this side now that it is smaller. Okay, so this is our actual basic sleeve, and then on one side of the smoky, after smoking it, I gathered one side of it to the hemline, just like I did here. So I gathered this lower part to the hemline, and then on this upper part I took it together like this, and I shaped out the armhole, and then I gathered the excess on this side also. So for the sides, I gathered the whole side to fit into the sides of my off shoulder sleeve, and that is why we have what we have here. So now to close it, I'm just going to take it together just like we close our normal sleeve, and then sew it on the sides so that we can actually achieve this. But before, remember, this is an off shoulder sleeve and this side is going to be showing, so you will need to maybe use a bias to hem this side properly so that it will be concealed and give you something this fine. And if you don't want to use a basic off shoulder sleeve also, it's possible. All you just need to do is to create a casing on the upper part. After shaping out your armhole, you just need to create a casing on the upper part and lower part of your smoky, and then you run an elastic just to control it to give you what you want. It's very simple to make and it's very beautiful. So I'm going to close this now so that we can see what we have. Okay, so it has been sewn together on the sides now, and you can see what it looks like. It's very beautiful and fluffy. So like I said, I did this as an off shoulder sleeve, but it can be, maybe it can be attached to a basic sleeve on the elbow here, or just on the chest area, anywhere you want. Very simple to make and it's very, very lovely. So give this a try and let's see what you come up with. And like I said, if you want it to be closer together, you just need to make your boxes shorter. In my case, this is what 3 inches gave me, so you can try what 2 inches or an inch will give to you, and let's see what the outcome looks like. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one. Bye.